G'day everyone and welcome to this week's special edition of the Melbourne Pro Punters panel. As usual, Dan Kelly.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm here, Jumpy.
Darren Potter and a very, very special guest, Richie. Everyone, welcome Richie.
Here it is.
King Richard.
Yeah,
there he is.
It's what about the punters, and here's the man that said, "Here, punters, I'm going to help you out. Minimum bet rules," and he's the man that led the charge.
So in the week of the Recreational Punter Society, because at heart we're all recreational.
Absolutely.
We're raising a glass. Thank you, Richie.
On Sunday,
Yeah,
Richie.
Thank you very much.
Everyone gathers.
So, with the tireless work of Richie, they've had it up in Sydney for a while, and now we've finally, October 1, we'll get it down here, where the corporates are compelled to bet you to win 2,000 in the city and 1,000 in the country. And just for anyone who's watching, if they don't comply with that, make sure you head to Racing Victoria and make sure you fill out the online form there to let them know that that's not happening, because that's part of the process. That's something that we've got to continue with as punters. That's part of the battle. If you think you're not being treated properly by them, then make sure you let RV know and they'll follow it up. So I know basically what's happened at the RV level, I'm led to believe, now that we've got the VOP, the Victorian official pricing, which comes off the corporates now, the guys that were collating the prices on course are now going to be moved into the office, and they're going to be working on dealing with any issues. So they're going to put some resources behind it. Hopefully they don't need to put too many behind it, and the market opens up. So Richie, thanks for coming down to Melbourne, and thanks for spending some time with us today. So it's good to have you, mate.
So the important question is, so having a set of rules that mean that they can't close your account and they have to write a bet to a minimum amount. What does that mean for you and your operation?
It just means that I can survive at it. When I sort of first started getting fired up about it, it was mostly because I felt like I was sort of getting shut out of my own sport, and also it was coming to the point where the hard work that I put in for a long time to get the level I got to could be amount to nothing, and all my closest mates were in the same position, and all you boys down here were as well, and it was just a sort of slow and steady process. And I think what really got me, I worked it out. It was about 4 years ago since I started going hard at it. And without going into too much detail, the first people I hit up was Northern Territory government. And what actually basically happened with them, I said to them, you need to. They had a minimum bet.
Yeah, we did. They had a 1,000.
Yeah, you need to tighten it up.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, think about what you're going to say, what you're saying, what you've put forward. And they came back to me saying, actually, we're going to just get rid of the minimum bet more. It's just too much. It's too hard for the bookies to deal with, and we just don't need it. And I was like, you fucking kidding. And that was just like, right, this is on.
Well, I resigned. I'd resigned. I was at Sportsbet at Margaret through that time, and the 1,000 minimum was on, and it worked well.
Yeah.
I felt it worked well. Then I resigned, and I'll go and have a crack myself. And about 2 weeks after I resigned, they canned it.
And I think that also shows how closely aligned that NT RC or whatever it's called up there was linked to and funded by the corporates. Because essentially the corporates, I think, through it would have been Mary Collier at that stage, and then Ian Fletcher afterwards.
Did she work?
No. With the Wagering Council, they sort of then lobbied them and said, "Look, we don't want this. Get rid of it. It's too hard to police." And so they got rid of it, which was a shame, because essentially we had a model that was half decent, and then it's taken us 4 years, and especially yourself, Richie, 4 years of hard work to try and get it back to where it should have been to begin with.
And the Australian Wagering Council no longer as well. So.
Well, that's just about the biggest victory ever.
What's happened there?
No,
they
got disbanded, right?
Yeah. They just disbanded it.
I'll drink to that.
Well, it turns out paying $400,000 a year to a lobbyist wasn't exactly money well spent. So they've disbanded.
Because I think William Hill left them, and then they were just kind of, and then I guess they didn't get
Betfair Willing Partners or something.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't get in play through, so they probably what's the point? So good people doing their best.
Also, the corporates putting their own lobbyists into Canberra and things like that.
Yeah,
I mean, Sportsman advertised for a government liaison officer to go and park themselves in Canberra to lobby in the best interests of Sportsbet. So,
I mean, it's from what from what I know from what I do. It's hard work to win a race. You have to work really hard at it.
Incredibly hard.
Absolutely. And if someone asks me, "You're going to win the next 12 months?" Well, I hope so. Do I know for sure? Absolutely not. So corporates are writing bets against me. You might get my cash, right? So it's a huge mental hurdle to overcome from my perspective. If you think you see a price you want to back and you can't get that price, so that from my perspective, that's why I'm really thankful for you for all the hard work that you've done.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than putting the hard work and saying, right, I want to take that price, and then they can just go no. You know what I mean? So it's and then it's already hard enough.
Yeah,
It's already
for
hard
sure.
enough.
That's the thing. Like, it was at that stage where it was like, you got to be very talented to be able to win on the punt. No matter, however you get your tips or you do your own form, you've got to be talented to keep going at it. And then there's also this thing where you've got to be just as talented to get your bets on. And like, at least now that's not going to be the case. You can just worry about doing your form and all that kind of stuff, which is the way it should have always been. So.
Richie, I'm sure, I know a little bit of your background too. You're a bit like DK. Like, we've come up on the track.
Yep.
Yeah. So we grown up with that being ingrained in us, that no, they have to bet you, and they were compelled to bet you. And then when this sort of, and it was partially like from blokes like myself who went and worked in the UK and brought back a similar model, and then when the UK guys started buying up the shops here, that we brought in this, it's easier to ban them rather than manage them. And that's sort of, I think, where it really got the Australian punters upset, I think, because they've been so used to it for so long that if you went up there and you had the money, it was the odds to win, whatever the limits were, and you were compelled to bet.
Yeah.
And why it never got to the stage where they were excluded from that shows that the regulation broke down when they sort of forced them all to Darwin. So
Sure, yeah.
Well, it's a real, in Australia, it's always been a real contest.
Yeah.
It's been vibrant and
Sure.
people doing their best and just loving betting.
yeah,
And over the last 5 years particularly, a bit of that's been taken away, and I just hope that it all comes back. But
And that was like, I sort of hinged my advocacy on, like, I wrote a thing in the Sydney Morning Herald, sent it to them, and they said, yeah, we'll publish it. And basically I said, why do we have gambling in society if you can only lose at it? And that was I was like, I want this question answered. And ultimately, like, we didn't have to go past, New South Wales and Victoria, the regulators. The government are like, well, that's their domain, let them answer it. And they basically answered saying, no, if you can only lose at it, we shouldn't have it. So then we're going to put in place these minimum bets so that people can win at it. And I think long term, I think we'll get it Australia-wide, horse racing, sports. It's, I don't know about sport, but so yeah.
I'm surprised, Richie, that especially in sport, there isn't a bookmaker over here that's tried the Pinnacle model yet.
Yeah.
Where basically, top sport do it to some extent, where basically you log in, you click on the market, and on Pinnacles it'll say you can have X amount at this price. I'm surprised no one's tried that model, especially on sport over here in Australia, because it could effectively, for the corporates, be a really cheap way to get your market right, especially on some of the minor sports. Like, there's plenty of times I've sort of had to reveal my hand on some of the minor sports to win 500, and then they can turn the price off. But if I can do that similar to what, like, I'm sort of going off what Nathan Snow's told me, drink again, mention Snowy every week, where he goes, I know that come 9 o'clock or 10 past 9, it's game on, and I know that I can go bang, 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 and I can get what I need at an average price that's close to, it's still overs from what he's marketed, but he's at least he's getting a reasonable sum on. And I think if it was something like that, and if they were all prepared to pay a small amount to do it, and then even out the market quite quickly, and it's not going to cost them.
Where's Pinnacle based, Jumpy?
They're based in the Caribbean. They did have an Australian arm.
What happened with all that?
There was some issues
with someone, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was some racecourse characters that were involved in part of the directorship that some people weren't happy with. I find both those blokes very easy to deal with.
Are they only sports?
They were betting on racing for a little while.
But they said they've left the marketplace now, have they?
In Australia they have, but they've still got the offshore, where basically, essentially all the corporates here are scraping off Pinnacle anyway, and with a bit of an overround added into it, and they're using, and essentially Pinnacle use the hot money to adjust the market. Like, they've got very good algorithms and programs there that set the opening odds, but then they'll have the limits low, and then as it gets closer to the off, the limits go up.
Right.
And so it would depend on the sport. Like the NFL that we've seen today, like, you could have $250,000 at a price, but then if you're trying to bet on a Japanese basketball game, you could probably have 400 at the price.
Yeah.
So they then scale it that way.
You know what's going on at the top, which is good.
Yeah, but at least you know where you stand. So if you look at it and you go, no, I want more than 400 on this Japanese game, I'm going to chance my arm, I'm going to wait till the off, because close to the off I can probably get 1,000 on it.
Yeah.
So I'm just surprised no one's tried to adopt that model here yet.
It's too easy the other way.
It is too easy the other way, correct. And it's cheaper.
Cheaper and lazier.
So anyway, mate, so where did your first involvement in racing come from? When did it all start?
my first 1997. I started working for Warren Woodcock Senior. Warren Woodcock Junior works at the races in Melbourne now.
Yeah.
Hello, Woody.
Hello, Woody. And Warren Woodcock Senior, I got a job working for him, 1997, as I said, and sort of worked for him for about 7 or 8 years. Really good grounding. You're just clerking. And then I started putting money on for the Bartholomew boys. I did that for sort of 7 or 8 years.
That's where I met.
We met. Like
early 2000s.
I met you at Seymour, Cold Seymour Day. I was the only punter in the ring, and you were working for WinBet.
Yeah, something like that. But that was in good times, you know. It was
Great times.
Yeah.
Pre-betting shops.
Yeah.
Reading that we're going, but no bet fair, and the action was on course, you know.
Yeah, I used to go, and I'd go up often. Spring Carnival, I'd go up to like I'd back things with like 100,000 for the Bartholomew's with Bill Graham. And
Bill,
like big
Bill
bet.
Graham and Craig
Big
Hudson,
betting.
they were huge.
Yeah.
You know, weren't
Yeah.
Because they had all the clients, had all the money.
Was that sort of tracksuit gang era too? Like when
Yes.
that was sort of happening, they were the good days.
Sort of on the bet, and like Packer was betting big back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kerry Packer, that is.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it was good times. It was last of the good times, you know.
Yeah,
And
for
it all
sure.
turned to shit, but anyway.
And then
You weren't in charge of putting together Warren Woodcock Senior's outfits, were you?
The worst thing I used to wear is like whatever he would wear, he would then make his staff wear.
It's for those, especially for the Victorian punters, those who don't know, Warren Woodcock Senior's he's very successful, been a very good
And turns 80 on Friday. So,
Oh, does he?
Yeah. So happy birthday.
So back then, 97, was it in the main ring then, or was he?
No, he used to have. He was sort of the first of the agencies, which now everyone wants. You know,
Yeah.
like he started them in Sydney probably about 10 years before I started working. They were like really successful, did really well.
But he wears loud, colourful clothing, doesn't he?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff, and then
I can remember going to the races. Particularly Randwick had been under the grandstand there.
Yep. And they were really lucrative for him. He did really well out of them. You know, because it was sort of contrary, and everyone wanted to be in the ring, and then he was like, "No, I'm going to go out here," and he was just doing what the corporates do now, get you $20 and $50 bets, and just getting you earn, you know. So, and then about sort of, I guess 8 or 10 years ago, I just sort of ventured out on my own and just been doing my best ever since, and learned a lot off a lot of people along the way,
So that's a real wagering education.
Yeah, I've always been. Yep.
So where did you learn the other side of it, like working who you're going to back?
It's sort of like mostly really just through working with the Bartholomew boys and just picking people's ears. And I also, there's a huge amount of information on the internet, and you get all the information, you pull it together, and even basic things like using Excel spreadsheets, and I had a few different ideas, and I'd ask a mate to sort of, who were better with computers than me, whip it into a thing, and then you get some sort of an idea, and then you get out there and you trade, and I think that's how it happens. And people who want to try and sort of do well on the punt, that's what I'd say. Like, the information's out there. It's just about time,
we are
effort,
lucky in our age,
trial and error. Mate, it's all out there. You just got to get it all together, and you got to be patient, and you got to keep your head, and eventually, not everyone's going to win, but a lot of people can.
I remember when I first arrived at my first race job interview with Mark Reed.
Yeah.
He sat me down and he got out all these old form books from through the 80s and things like that, which was all hand done with the cuttings and the photos out of the, and then writing things down and things. So compared to what we got now, with everything 2016, and they could make a go of it then, and we are blessed now with that.
Well, the lucrative thing back in those days, I can remember as a kid going to the local tab, and he had 4 VCRs set up behind him because he was selling tapes to 4 different blokes. He'd just sit there recording Sky Channel each day. Sunday morning, there'd be 4 blokes walk in and they get full
I used to buy them.
VHS, and that was pretty much unless you're on course, that was the only way you could get the tapes.
It's only really been the last 2 years that they're free, isn't it? Really?
It used to cost. It was a big.
Used to pay. There's a guy in Melbourne who used to
like $60 a week or something.
It was 40. I think it was 40 a week, and you got in the express post. It was in the mail. He did them on Sunday night or something.
And
you got on Tuesday.
And
you got the week, and you had all these. You had to send them back after about 3 months because your desk was just covered in VHS.
And then it was a breakthrough and it went to DVD because it was so much quicker.
So all those things all happened in our time.
It's
amazing what we've got now.
What I really like about it, even though all the information's there now, it's all there for you if you want to have a go at it. It is, like I know from experience, it's still really hard work. You have to put in the hours. Like, just to give an example of that Caulfield meeting last week.
I thought all you Melbourne guys, how long did it take you?
15 hours I spent on that meeting in total. But that's before
Does
the
that
race
include
started.
walking the track?
You've got to keep yourself fresh, otherwise you've got to have breaks.
Do you get up early? Like on a Saturday, what time are you up and looking at
Not so much on Saturday, but Thursday and Friday I had 4 o'clock starts.
Yeah.
Because I just like that. That suits me. You know what I mean?
Good work done between 4 and 9.
A lot done. Yeah. Then I go out in the morning and whatever.
Yeah.
So I might come back and I'll look at whatever provincial meetings on that day. Might find a few races there to bet in.
Yeah.
And then once I finish that, then I'll start on the Melbourne stuff again and do a bit.
Yeah.
That's just my style. But it was just because it was a really thick car, so many runners.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to watch the video of every runner, I mean, that in itself would have taken several hours.
Yeah.
I watched most of them, not all of them.
Yeah.
I probably watched all of them. But, and so it's still, you know, it's there for you, anyone that wants to do it.
Yep.
But you've really got to apply yourself
Yep.
and you've got to be resilient because, you know, profit on racing doesn't go like that. So, you know, it goes like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's hard.
And keeping your head's a really important thing as well. So, it's
Well,
easy
you would
to
have learned
lose
some
it.
great lessons there, the staking side of it. You got anything to tell our viewers about staking? Any particular?
I think you can't be afraid to bet up. You know, when certainly you don't want to bet with money that you can't afford to bet with. But you know, you got to have a crack, and you know, if you think you're going to win, and especially if you've got a computer telling you that you're going to win, you want to back yourself, and you probably want to set yourself up so that you can get through at least a few weeks, or even better, a few months of a rough trot, because you know it is very up and down.
Yeah.
And you know, like I've had periods of a year where I've made no money at it, you know, but you chip away at it, you keep going along, and so so it's important. It's important to know your bank, but also to have a bit of a crack, you know, and hopefully you'll be a bit lucky.
So did you have any specific rules with your bank? Just say there's a race where there's a really good edge.
Yep.
What's the limit? How much of your bank would you commit? What would the maximum of your bank you commit to a race? Everything, as much as.
Maybe 5% or something.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. Yeah. But that wouldn't happen all the time.
Was that per race or per meeting? Is that 5%?
No.
No, if you've got a max bet race.
max bet,
but like you know, put in perspective, if I didn't back a winner for a week, I'd be out of play. You know, so that's, I mean, that's, you know, it's never happened, and I don't think it ever will happen. But that sort of shows you that, like I'm pretty comfortable, but you know, you got to go pretty hard. So, but not out of control. You know, like I've got this much, and it's not going to. You know,
I think for our viewers, they're paying really close attention. Here's someone that's made a go of it for a long period of time. He's telling you you've got to go hard, and when he goes hard, he commits 5% of his bank to that race. So I think anyone going beyond that, you're getting into territory that gets really quite difficult.
Well, that's just then you just.
I mean, me personally, I'm a conservative sort of person. I bet in a lot of races. It's 2% of my banks. That, and I hardly ever get there. Really, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Sure.
And I'll be somewhere in between.
It all comes down to how big
Be
your
3
bank
or
is,
4,
really.
Sure.
There are times when there's one I really
that's
like and
it.
it wins, and I just got kicked off. Why not a bit more courageous? But at the end of the day, I'm not trying to make my living out of one race. That's what I always do myself.
Yeah.
Just trying to chip one and keep turning it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask Rich and maybe inform what we can expect from different shops who we've got to recontact to get our accounts. Just going by guys who've done it in New South Wales and things like that.
Sure.
So accounts have been closed, not closed, but we've been restricted. So we just say 365, or we just email them, do we, or what do we do? Will they just automatically do it, or?
Yeah, I think you just sort of, it might be a bit easier, a bit more seamless because of the New South Wales thing, but I think you just, like, I remember when New South Wales stuff came in, I just called them up, and they were like, a couple of them were sort of caught on the hot, they were like, oh yeah, we'll get back to you tomorrow about it, and then the next day they kind of opened up accounts, and pretty much there was a bit of pushback to start with, but I kind of think it's all really settled down now. Like the only people who were pretty difficult about it were William Hill, and I'm pretty sure they're pretty much betting. They don't bet me, but I don't really care.
But other people.
Yeah, I checked. I was pushing hard. Like I had an ongoing dispute with Racing New South Wales and William Hill about it, and then Racing New South Wales said to me, "Well, you say that everyone can't get on with them, but we don't have any ongoing disputes with them. So what are you talking about?" So I called around a few of my mates and like, "Yeah, we're sweet, we're getting on now." So hopefully that'll be the same.
What about the onerous things imposed on us to reopen accounts? I heard that sort of quiet down because.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there'll be a few bookies that are still going to be difficult, and you just got to fight against that as much as possible.
I'll have to double check, and I'll let people know on the show in the next couple of weeks. But I think if there is overly onerous conditions attached to RV, I want to know about it.
Yeah, and let us know. And like, I'm happy to, I speak to the guys at RVL, and I know the blokes to speak to in there. So if you can shoot it into into me. And the other thing that I had a bowler account restricted week before last, and I know that the New South Wales limits still apply to that account.
Right.
So it's completely cactus on everything else. But I know that on that, so I assume.
So
but I assume that what's happened is that I'll go back to betting in my own name with them on the Victorian stuff. Now, Rich, I'll put the question to you and you two guys. If we go right back to the beginning of when this show / concept started, way back in the day,
this show or the game?
No, when the boys in Sydney started up there, and the
minimum event push.
No, when the punter show originally started up there with Glenn and Mark, they were sort of said, what can we do to bring punters back to the track? So that's a question I'd put to you three guys, especially coming from the track. Like, what would it need to get you guys to become
back to the track
regularly? Yeah,
to go to the races.
Yeah, or if you could potentially work from there too.
It's just not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Okay.
I hate to say it, but and I hear people talk about it all the time. It's a futile argument. It would be nice, but it's just the way the world's. I personally, it's the way that the world's moved. I think what we need to concentrate on is that turnover on racing is growing, and it's one, keeping up with inflation, and two, going beyond that. And if that's happening, I don't really care where people are betting from.
I'd like a scenario where I could go. Say there's an office somewhere, and you could pay 100 a week, whatever. Tuppy's there, and Rich is there, and you're all there doing your own thing. But there's some camaraderie, and you're all whacking away doing your own thing. Who's had a bet here? Yeah, we're cheering for this. And you don't have to tell them what you're doing, but we sit at home in our bunkers. It's quite a quite a lonely game to some degree. And doing our best at home.
That'd be great.
And I miss the camaraderie of the races.
That's
saying good day to the bookies, the punters, owners coming up. How's your horse going to go today? I loved all that when I worked at the races. It was great.
Yeah.
Now I sit when the gift of music's running. I love getting down there and seeing who people still there. AD and Swanee and you and Nifty Clements and everyone.
But that's the other thing that you guys still do. Like, you guys are still using on-course bookmakers, aren't you?
Yep.
You guys are still ringing through. Like, you do it through Elite Bet Pods. DK, I'm sure you use a couple of the guys down here, and you probably use guys around too. I mean, that's also made it easier too, because that's one thing that I think, and there's another change to the minimum bet rule that sort of hasn't been openly announced, but it is happening. The on-course limits are going to match the online limits. Which,
so it's going to be 2,000 on...
Oh no, sorry, it's going to be to win 3 on the rails and 1,000 everywhere else.
Yeah.
But I had a different concept that I sort of put forward was, I'm not sure why we couldn't segment the rails. So the middle of the rails, or whichever the best stands are on the rails, if they're happy to bet 5 to win 5,000 still, they get the pick of the best stands.
Yeah,
then what's left after that, so you can still service the members in the public, they can be 3 from then on. Because there's been a couple of situations when they've moved the ring inside at Moonee Valley where there hasn't been room off the rail to put a couple of off the rails bookies, and they just put them up one end.
Right.
And they would have won 1,500, but everyone else was to win 3 because it was during the week.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why that couldn't have been tackled, because from my experience from talking to a lot of, especially the bigger rails bookies, they're all not particularly happy that this limit's coming in. They're more than comfortable to keep betting punters and other bookies to win 5,000.
Yes, they bet themselves.
That's exactly, because it keeps the circular. And this
wasn't it all to do with Betfair and some bookies using Betfair and other bookies getting picked off to win 5 and then Betfair, and I don't know, but wasn't that the blast?
That was part of it, but the other thing with that is, in some cases, if you don't go to that Betfair price or slightly over, other times it's just impossible to put that horse into the book, because it's not as if there's the punters there anymore that are there wanting to back it. Sometimes you have to arb to do it.
So the question is, along on to what Chuppy's asking, is what do you think the future is for on-course bookmakers? Looking at
I think they're heading into the most challenging period ever, because they've lost control of their price now, and they're sort of virtually obsolete. I mean, my experience over the last few weeks has been pretty good, because I've been calling going, hey, I can buy. I'm looking at VOP at $5.50. What's happened there? And they're like, yeah, there's $5, there's $5.50, and so they were always, before the VOP came in, the on-course bookies were always a little bit bigger percentage, shorter odds than the corporates were. Certainly on the provincial country, on the city they probably get a bit more aggressive, like the Metro and that. But I think that they've got a big challenge to sort of stay relevant, because there's just there's just no money out. I mean, I can't speak because I ran the races in Victoria for probably 5 or 6 years.
Guppy will tell you that you're right.
Yeah.
There's no cracker there.
No cracker.
And
And if it
now,
is,
like,
there's a little bit of tough and hard money.
Yeah.
Um,
Or an owner. That's about the only time you'll ever see that.
no, real who there's not. It was
So they're losing their relevance, the on-course bookies.
Yep.
And do you see any support for them coming from the clubs and the administrators?
No, they don't give a shit.
They don't care. So if they disappear, they don't care. That's,
No, and I don't, you know, in defence of the regulators and administrators, there's a huge amount of pressure on them for racing to continue to, you know, make money and grow its revenue and stuff. And at the end of the day, the on-course bookies tip nothing into it other than they help the theatre and, you know, the fabric of the race, you know, on race course, which is obviously so important. And the regulators know that stuff, but deep down they're just sort of like, well, you know, what really can we do? I'm sure they're open to suggestions and stuff, but I just think that it's just going to be a natural kind of death towards where there's a few on course and they service the, you know, the small amount of cash out there, and that's about it. Maybe they can do something where they can. I'm hearing that they're trying to have a situation where they have a price that gets put out over the internet. I don't know how that will all work, but
they can't. But there's no new punters, no new bookies. They're up against the corporate spent about 120 million.
What do you mean? There's no new punters out at the track?
Young blokes who are going to bet.
In
There's
cash.
blokes who are going to bet on their phone. It's all coming through, getting the saturation marketing from the. So as they're 18, they're getting a sports bet account or a TAB account, and there's not going to the races to bet with bookies.
so currently, if someone wanted the licence, some young bloke wanted to have a crack at it, what would he have to go through to get onto the into the ring? You know?
I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd nearly have to buy into a partnership.
No,
I hope the viewers are sensing the comedy of this conversation.
Yeah.
They're protecting something that's going to die.
Yeah.
I'm saying to you on-course bookmakers, you are dying. Stop protecting it. If you want it to survive at all, it has to be opened up.
I'll tell you what I went through the process about when I resigned, when they killed the minimum bet off, and then I thought, oh, shit, I'm going to have to get a bookies licence here. So you've got to feel out, go through forms, your background checks within an inch of your whatever.
Yeah.
You've got to get. You've got to sit before the VBA and get all these questions. You've got to find 10,000 cash that's got to go into the bookies bond you'll never see again till the day you're not a bookie, and you can't get, and you couldn't get a stand.
Yeah.
So you can put in, and we'll give you. We're compelled to give you 8 for your first month to give you your works, and then you might get 3 meetings every 3 months, even though you put in for 40 meetings.
Yeah.
Might have changed now because
no.
Shit. Yeah. So that's what it is to try and be a bookie.
Yeah.
I could have gone and paid 70 grand or 60 grand and got
and bought a joint.
That's the other point. I mean, people think these licences are actually worth money.
Yeah, and they're kidding themselves.
Can't give them away.
Another question I've got for you, Rich. The amount of product that we have, is there too much racing at the moment?
Yeah, probably. I've got another sort of controversial response. I think it's great.
Okay.
That, from my personal point of view, I think that the more the better. And, you know, I sympathise with someone like Potsy.
Okay. I don't have to bet on. I can choose.
That's true. I guess that's my point. You know, it's like and you know, like
last year, just to give you an example, last year I did all the night meetings at Moonee Valley, and I actually won on them, but I found it exhausting and it was really flattening me for Saturday. So this year, I'm going to pick a couple of races, the ones that suit me, and just leave the rest.
And on a place like that, they want to bet on the Friday night meeting, but they say, oh no, fuck it. I wake up in a funk on Saturday. I'm just not interested in leaving. Like, sweet, you know. But there's demand. While there's demand out there,
there's demand both ways, and then we've got the pool of horses to support it. I'm an owner and a punter and a full time, so I'm the same. I pick and choose what meetings I want to bet on. But as an owner, I'm trying to win as much prize money and place my horse, and I need a race every few weeks to put him in. And we're never short of runners here, no matter how many meetings we've got. You know, it might get limited over when we have all our non-taps and everything for a week over the spring carnival. We've got the horse population to do it, and we don't want to. If we don't bet somewhere else, someone else. The people punters still want to bet.
Yeah.
You know, they'll find something else to bet on.
Well, I go 5 times a week, so I.
And I mean, you know, that's what you want. You know, the more racing is, the easier it is.
More people making a living out of it. It's a big industry.
Yeah, it is a big industry, and that's true.
I don't. This Hong Kong. Every week now after the last Hong Kong race, can people stop tweeting about epic turnoveries? It's a closed shop. There's no pokies on every corner. There's no casinos. They race twice a week. They've got 25 jockeys, 25 trainers. It is apples to oranges. So can we please?
I agree.
Completely different.
There's an issue with the amount of horses being bred, whether it's the right number or not. And you don't want to have this situation where there's only places for the ones at the top of the peak.
Yep.
You want there to be places
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
the slower horses.
And in terms of animal welfare, that's a really good point that I've never thought about. Like, animal welfare is the biggest challenge for racing.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very good point. They've got this huge foal crop. If we limit the amount of racing, you've got more horses that aren't fast enough to make it to the track, and you've got a bigger problem with animal welfare. So,
but RVL are getting really on the front foot with this.
Yeah.
There's different things every.
Did you see
New South Wales are making it fun, don't they? They've got
Yeah,
fun.
and like the way I read, which I thought was fantastic, they said that any horse that's bred to race will not be slaughtered.
Not going to the doggers, yeah.
Yeah, which is, and I think that's.
They need to have these funds for them. I mean,
Absolutely.
They've got all these money from they're all pumping, racing New South Wales and RVL kicking along with, racefields legislation and things like that. There has to be money put aside for this, definitely for this welfare issue for sure.
And just a little side point, I saw in the paper today that the court actions by the greyhounds bodies have started against Baird, and I don't know about you boys, I think it's a fucking disgrace what's happened up there.
Yeah.
I'm all against, I put a tweet up saying zero tolerance for cruelty. Like, what happened was abhorrent and disgusting in terms of the light baiting stuff. But for Baird to just walk in and do what he did is just...
What would they done in Victoria?
Yeah,
they've gone out of the sweep out. There was Charlie Bazuna in there. He was the ex-head of the homicide squad. He's in there running the integrity stuff. And they've got all the welfare officers to clean out every week. There was advertisements for greyhound welfare officers, for people, and they've just cleaned the thing out and start again. But don't kill off the industry.
And give us a chance.
Give us a chance.
Like if in 2 years, like say it's a year ago since the Four Corners thing happened or whatever, what I think Bear should have done is sort of what every other state's done. Drop the report, say the state government thinks greyhound racing needs to be shut down for this, and this. We're putting it out to sort of feel what the public thinks and see what greyhound racing can do to tell us that it doesn't need to be shut down, and and go forward from there. And if in a year or two's time,
put them on notice or something.
Put them on notice and give the whole community a chance to sort of say what they think. But at the end of the day, I think Baird just doesn't give a fuck about greyhound racing, so he just goes, just get rid of it.
The mistake he made is I think he thought no one cared about it. Like, or it was a very tiny minority.
Aren't they lobbying out of the next by-election that Jones and Hadley are going to boot out the pants pipe or something?
He's got a huge problem, he said. It could cost him the next election.
I think so.
He won't want to go to one election fighting Ray Hadley.
Because
he won't win.
And his two ICs, just Troy Grandy's.
Well, apparently he was the one who kind of made the decision. He was the...
he's the bloke with pictures of him at Dubbo Dogs on his Twitter feed, so that was well done, Troy. You did well there.
Now, here's four of us in Victoria at the moment, and I doubt that any of us have had a bet on the greyhounds this year, probably. I certainly haven't. Have you?
No, but I love a bet on the dogs.
No, I love the dogs too. I grew up going to the dogs. I love them. I just think that my bed's offended everyone. Anyone that's got any interest in that at all.
Yeah, no, it's sort of this moral crusade, and it's a big thing in New South Wales. Like Sydney becoming a very boring city. New South Wales is the biggest nanny state.
The lockouts.
If you ride your bike down the street now and you don't wear a helmet, it's like a $320 fine. You go for a red light on that bike, on a fucking bicycle, it's a $400 fine. It's just too much.
Nanny state out of control.
Yeah, you can't go out anymore.
The lockout laws are terrible.
King's Cross is dead. Anyway, all off the topic, but it's
No, it's the thing that the Victorian industry, the greyhound industry, was they moved swiftly. Within 8 weeks of that Four Corners, the reforms were coming in, they were cleaning out, and they were putting things in place, and because they moved quickly.
And to Martin Pakula's credit, because I was listening to his response, and we knew exactly what was going on.
He was very clear.
And he was like, brutal. He's like, if this doesn't change, we're going to, we will shut the industry down. But New South Wales, they were very quiet, and they commissioned this report, and then they just said, here's the report, and we're shutting you down. I just thought it was one of the most shocking decisions.
We've been lucky with our racing ministers, Dennis. Obviously, Dennis and you had some dialogue with Martin.
He's so approachable. Like you hit him up, and which is fantastic.
And he's been terrific.
So, was that process hard, Richie, of trying to lobby those sorts of people and the people in racing administration to try and get them to pay attention to this issue?
No, it's sort of like, I sort of, pulled a few strings and sort of said to this person, hey, I know you know them, I spoke to John Massara and I knew someone who knew him, and I called him and said, the next day I was in Massara's office talking about it, and just sort of, he was just saying, hey, well, I'm on the Australian Racing Board, I can help you, and then and then ultimately I spoke to Peter McGoran and he was like, well, there's not much we can do, but we can, they didn't exactly endorse what I was trying to do, but they said that it's probably, I think their words was like a credible solution. Anyway, so those kinds of things. I think if you have a just cause and you're rational and you don't, go off your brain, pretty much anyone will listen to you, which is really.
It was quite a rational argument, wasn't it? I used to, even my dad, who's not just, but you sit down and tell him, Dad, this is what happens. I back winter with these people, they close my account. I'm I'm allowed to do business. He was a racing administrator. He was a president of a race club.
Yeah.
He said, what?
Yeah, most people I said to them said that's a fucking scandal.
Yeah, it's a scandal.
It's a scandal. Well, Alan Jones said it on the thing.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it's the same as if we went into the or we were here at the pub and we all walked up to buy a beer and not that Gary never does. He goes, no, you can't have one.
Yeah.
It was.
They probably said that to you a couple of times, right?
Yeah,
no,
they have
You
said
would
that.
hope that the chairman
With
of
good
Racing
reason.
New South Wales and whatever positions that John Massaro holds would want every punter that wants to bet as the avenue to do it.
For sure.
That's
for
what
sure.
you think that would
Yeah.
be something that he would support.
Yeah, well, he's
so-
looking like he's sitting there with all the experience he's got, and he's looking at me like a young bloke going, "Well, we want more people like you in the industry. So why are we getting rid of you? You know, like you know." And he didn't in any way endorse anything I was doing. He just sort of listened to what I said, and I got the Australian Racing Board to have an opinion on it. So, and that was what really ultimately was good out of that connection was when I wrote to Bernard Saundry, and that's when I wrote the last letter to Bernard Saundry just before it came out, which they probably had already decided they were going to do it anyway. But I just put forward a whole lot of things that said, come back to me with this, because I had like 5 or 6 like basically watertight points I thought, and I still didn't think they were going to bring it in. I thought they're not going to do it anyway. But then at least we could go, well, but ultimately, we could say, well, why? And they would have to come out and say, well, because the corporate should be allowed to do what they want. And then as long as they say that, okay, fine, we can cop it. But don't, that was spin the year before and they said, oh, it's too hard with, the legality. Well, it turned out it wasn't that. They were basically what happened was that they brought in the race fields, 1 to 3%, which is expensive, which the bookies probably weren't that happy about, and they just didn't want to hit them up with, and you've got to bet everyone as well. So they let them digest that for a year, and then and I think it's a fantastic time for punters at the moment. I think it's, punters can do really, really well at the moment. I think for bookies as well, it's a solid time because
that's the point I was going to make before. I would be surprised if the minimum bet laws were forced on the corporates in New South Wales. If on reflection, they probably haven't seen it as a positive, the corporates.
I think so.
It's probably increased their turnover and probably increased their profit, I would think.
I think the bookies, every single time someone has a bet with you, they should look at that bet they're actually making money out of because they're betting 110, 115% or whatever. They take their tiny little clip, and they need to start focusing on that way of bookmaking and not they're just trying to find the mug who all that kind of stuff. So,
I was just going to look at a good story about getting young blokes into racing from a racing family. 17-year-old twin boys, getting to that age. One found the Punters show a few years ago, and the other one, so Friday nights, one brother would get out chasing Sheilas and doing what you do when you're 17 and 18. The other brother just saturated himself in the Punters show and Mark Lambourne's stuff. Just stayed home in his room and learned. Put it all together, mixed and matched, tried a few different things through 1920, and then said, Dad, I think I found a way here. And my dad gave me a little bank to start betting with and quaddies and things like that. And now 3 or 4 years later, he's flying on the punt, just making a full-time career of it. So that was
there's no better life.
There's no better life, and he's been able to do it as a young bloke. Discipline, but just that Lambourne, that access to blokes like Lambourne, who's been great to you, great to me, and stuff, and would stand by, everybody. So that's good to get people involved.
It is a good life when you come and have a beer at lunchtime on a Monday or a Tuesday, so it can't be all bad, punters. Speaking of having a beer, of course, Sunday we're back here. Hopefully the weather's going to be all right. We'll be out here in the beer garden at the All Nations for the Recreational Punter Society, because I'm sure you've been referred to as a non-recreational player in the past, Richie.
I have, but I'm 100% recreational.
So am I. So
3 o'clock kickoff, Juppy?
Yep, somewhere around there. We'll be here. There'll be a heap of smart guys coming from both sides of the fence.
Bookies, punters, shops.
It's talking about the camaraderie. It's that sort of stuff. This will be, and there'll be no pressure because no one's actually trying to work. Everyone. So there'll be a heap of different guys here. If you fancy it, come on down. Come and have a few beers. It should be a great night. Hopefully the weather's all right because we can get out here in the beer garden.
How are we going for time, Jumpy? We got time?
We're all right. We're going to do some. Have you got a horse to follow for us?
I've got a horse to follow. I've got a couple.
Coming winners.
Our old friend St Switham's Potts. So Potts and I followed St Switham's. We tipped it in our service, things like that. And we had, I had a rider change. Resumed with a rider change. It was M Payne off and Linda on at Swan Hill the other day.
Oh, you can't say that, DK.
I know, but anyway.
If you kept finding races, we just think, please go to the front.
And please go to the front.
Go to the front and take control of this race.
This is the fastest horse.
They kept taking a sit on this horse.
So I went to the front the other day, 1 by 6 first up, so that was good. And, I don't know, everyone saw it, but Harlow Gold, I did Spruker on the show along with a couple of others as an Oaks filly, and just wait till she gets over 2,000. Things like that, I mean.
Will she run the Wakeful? Is that
which way they'll, so they're going to go 1,000 guineas, might go 1,000 guineas Wakeful. There's also the 2,000 metre race on Cup Day. But so I'd say they go 1600,
and then still go the Oaks.
1600 too. I'd say they go 1600. 1,000 guineas from Wakeful, I would say.
That's the sort of traditional pass. That'll be 3 weeks into the 1,000 guineas.
I'm a punter, not a trainer. So not an owner. So what I say is almost irrelevant to this conversation. But if I was controlling that, what I would want to do with that is 1,000 guineas Cox Plate.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a perfect year for a 3-year-old. We're going to have a conversation about 3-year-olds, but 3-year-olds got a real opportunity this year, and Winx is the only one to be scared of.
Yeah. Sure. And I was just out of my class range, Potts, into your class range, but an old mate of mine, Pay Up Bro.
Oh, yeah, well.
So he was my.
This is going to look funny when people watch part 2. I'm going to say that part 2 was filmed before part 1. Otherwise, they're going to think I'm a goose.
That was a state secret, possibly.
So anyway, when he won his maiden at Ballarat last August, I had my biggest bet for the year on him. He ticked every box I got. He ticked. He ran second or third to Tarzino, just beat them. Had blinkers on Zara. Same track, same distance, same track. So I was just a double maximum bet for the year, and he duly obliged. And he's flying. He's flying. He's going to pick up a race, the right race over Spring Carnival. So,
that is an interesting point with the 3-year-old spots because outside of Winx, I think it's going to be probably one of the weaker Cox Plates we can think of. And you look at some of
she's scaring them off.
Well, she's scaring them, but also even if you look at the other 2 cups, surely you've only got to have a half decent international rated to knock them off because it just looks like there's nothing. We just seem to be thin on the ground for really top horses at the moment.
Well, they go to stud or go to Hong Kong.
I saw that it was like 260 Winx and then $9 to Hartnell. Is it because they don't think that they'll run Hartnell and Cox Plate?
Yeah, no, he's going to go to Caulfield Cup.
Right, so that's because I didn't think there was that much between them, like $260 and $9. So he's doubtful. Is that why he's such a big price? Okay.
That's why he's such a big. Because they've essentially said he's pretty well weighted in the Caulfield Cup. Is what.
I've been reviewing all the Saturday Sydney meetings, so I've got a handle on the form when it comes to Melbourne. I reviewed Saturdays. Can I just say that wherever they go for Fabrizio, I'd want to be on that horse.
Right.
If it's in the it's a live chance. That was an enormous win there on Saturday. He set himself a magnificent platform to do something.
That's the Waterhouse horse, right?
Yeah. And really fast time from the front.
That's her special, isn't it? Epsoms and stuff. So.
On the backup. So it was on the backup Saturday. Now it's got 2 weeks to the Epsom. That just.
Where would it sit in Epsom? Would it lead? Or?
It'd be on pace. So depends on the rest. That's okay, lightweight. All works.
Week ahead, boys. We've got Sale tomorrow, probably on a wet track from one of these midweek meetings. Mornington on Thursday. Swan Hill and the first Moonee Valley night meeting of the season on Friday night. Can't wait to get there. Murtoa Cup Day on Saturday. And Underwood Stakes Day at Caulfield, and then there's Coleraine Cup Day and
Sunday's
small,
relevant.
small. This is where you want to be, punters. So should be a busy weekend.
Kilmore Monday, Gift of Music back on the turf.
Oh,
there we go. Start weight canvas pots. He has got a base, but
upside down.
I
tell you what, he's fit enough working up that hill, I reckon.
That's
there
right, yes.
Kilmore, I reckon.
Keep him at 1200.
Is there nominations out for that?
I weren't out. They're out, but nominations. They get 100 noms a race now. They're free noms, so we'll see when the acceptances come out. But anyway, fingers crossed.
So just on that 3-year-old thing, I just want to have a quick conversation about it appears for all intents and purposes that the Sydney 3-year-olds are going to come down here over spring and just pick race after race off. Has anyone got an opinion on why that is? And it seems to happen more years than it doesn't. What do you think, Richard?
Maybe because a lot of the really good horses are bought at the Easter sales and they kind of stay up in Sydney. Is that a plausible theory?
That's a factor for sure.
Yeah. It has to be.
So you've got that big, strong connection to all the big Hunter Valley studs and the Sydney trainers. Yeah. So I think that's one of the planks of it for sure.
Is it
cyclical too, maybe?
Cyclical. Is it preparation-wise and things like that? Like, you know how they're saying the Yanks, our swimming team isn't going any good at the Olympics because of our preps or some things like that, the lead-ups?
Yeah, because they don't have the tough, hard racing that...
the Yanks have their qualifying about a month before the Olympics, so they're primed and ready to go that time of the year. Yeah. I just thought that might have been a factor, the preparation.
Well, they've had a longer, slower build-up, haven't they? Because they run through the 3-year-old races in the early part of the spring up in Sydney before they come down here.
So my theory is that Melbourne trainers and Melbourne administrators are going to wake up. You're giving them a big, big head start. But they've got the head start of having a lot of the really bred ones for a start.
Yeah.
But then, I'm not sure what week it is. It must be pretty close because I'm pretty sure an October meeting, they have the gym crack and the breeders. So prior to that,
Yep.
so the 2 or 3 weeks before that, sorry, Richard, I'm just they have the 2-year-old trials that are basically like a race meeting. The only difference between a race meeting is they don't bet on it, right? But so trainers come from all the training centres, and they trial at that set of 2-year-old trials.
Those were the ones
to
that were held
qualify.
yesterday, yeah?
Well, there's yesterday.
Yeah, they were
It's
yesterday.
always this time of year. So then they go to the gym crack and the breeders, and so far in Melbourne, none. I haven't seen
None.
any yet. You know what I mean? But whatever. And even when they do start trialling, okay, all the Flemington ones will trial against each other at Flemington. All the
Yeah.
Caulfield ones will be at Caulfield,
That's
and
it.
so on and so forth.
That's it.
Right? And every time there's a set of trials at Rose Hill, Gay Waterhouse sends a truckload, Joe Pride sends a few, or whoever.
Bit of prep, bit of prep.
The Snowdens, and O'Shea brings all of his best ones go to the away trials. They trial their slower ones at home, but the better ones
Go to the ways to give them,
trials.
because it's almost an
And
educational experience for them.
So they build up with competition. They start earlier,
Yeah.
and they build up. By the time we get to Christmas, like the Melbourne ones are that far behind, it's not even funny. And it takes the rest of the 3-year-old season for them to catch up. And I just think they're and you see it with the Golden Slippers. So many times a good winner of the Blue Diamond goes up there and comes up a length or two short.
Sure.
They've got the talent,
Yeah.
but they just come up that little bit short.
Yeah,
So,
it's happened the last couple of years, hasn't it?
And a certain senior sportsman, New South Wales trader, is revelling in the fact that Detective and Kentucky Miss coming down here, or they're C graders and they're winning races down here. Can I just say, Rad, that plenty to like nearly pinched your T-Rose off a Benalla Mate the other day. She got beaten about half a length. So,
Hello, Rap.
get here Sunday, Rad.
but he like get up like
Get led and they got to her and then she just kicked and got beaten that far.
Well, to back up Potter's point on those 2-year-old trials that were held yesterday at Randwick, that same set of trials has produced the last 2 Golden Slipper winners and 3 out of the last 5 Slipper winners.
So I remember
So-
Piano being there, not being
Yeah.
impressive, and it was a good starting point for him. By the time I got to the Slippery, it was a racehorse.
Well, they've almost had a full prep, and then they can have a decent spell to come back for the autumn.
And the Melbourne trainers wonder why they can't ever compete in a Magic Millions. You're just so far behind. It's not even funny. Like so that if those trials were yesterday, there should have been a Melbourne set of 2-year-old trials, and you want like big numbers there. So there would have been 80 horses there at least jumping, would there?
Yeah.
So I'm saying there should have been 82-year-olds trialling in Melbourne somewhere, say against each other, almost under race circumstances.
The only problem with
That's
that
why
is,
they Potter ran down to Cranbourne.
well,
Yeah,
the only
it's-
problem with that is, Potts, we'd have to find a dry grass track to conduct these trials on, and that's a bit of a struggle lately.
Well, not in the city, Jumpy. There's been plenty of jump outs.
Yeah,
Just-
I
there's
suppose
heaps
you run
of
down
them,
the
you know?
outside, it's just the
To
size
see
of
what's
the
going on
field.
with Casterton today? All the tweeting from Casterton? Blackheart Bar and Lucky
Oh,
Hustle
we've got
all
a-
had in one trial. Iron Prince of Penzance. And who's the thing that won on
I hope
Valentino and everything in the next trial?
racing.com's got the
Benny
cameras down
Ascaris
there.
went there and did Casterton yesterday and stayed overnight. So-
Something. Hopefully he's got a
so he's
camera
got
with
the
him
camera
because...
there. It's all the group, all these 15 Group 1 horses were all jumping out against each other. It was,
Is that going to, will public trial, will everything be public soon in Victoria, or do you think it's going to stay the way
well,
it is?
I mean, this is what we need.
Well, this is the next thing.
This
We've
is
got
the-
off
I reckon that's,
We're on the
I reckon
next
that's the
thing.
next thing.
We're on the
I think
next
it makes no sense. It's got to happen. So
So at the moment we can see, I don't know if you look at the Flemington ones,
yeah.
Caulfield,
Caulfield.
And it's not as straightforward
Mornings.
as we all think, right? There's issues to do with sort of rights to the footage and all that kind of stuff, is there? Because
Yeah, they do. They're independently done. Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
RBL needs to come along and
yeah,
take
right.
Well, I
over.
need to bring that back in our
Make it
Because
a
I've
Right.
seen Chen Anderson on Twitter saying things like it's not as easy as you think it might. Like it's not just
Yeah,
we
they've
go
got
get
to work
footage.
towards
It's
it.
not that
That's right.
straightforward.
Well, I think the clubs tend to own the footage,
Yeah.
and they don't particularly. I'm not sure whether they're in a hurry to
Astro
relinquish it.
Castro and your thing the other
Yeah.
day from Yoshi Shiitake. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
we
coming
do.
out of Ballarat jump outs.
Yeah.
You know, or Geelong jump outs.
So we're
whatever.
racing Victoria tracks.
Yeah, that's
funded
right.
by the industry, funded
That's
by
right.
punters.
There's a steward there for helping
So
things
it's
get
like-
tickets
There's Darren Weir sending truckloads of good horses to somewhere to
every week.
trial.
Every 10 days he does
Racing
it.
Yeah,
Victoria tracks.
He said he
either
does it every
Moorlake
10
or
days.
Casterton
They're
or
at Donald the other
Sonata,
week.
yeah.
He said he's got to use all those grass tracks around there.
Yeah.
And he-
Well, and Barrowbeek. There should nearly be a permanent camera at Barrowbeek for the amount of horses that are working
The
there.
ones that the occasional ones they've filmed, Sonata
Yeah.
and Avoca, have been great. Getting a look at how Darren Weir trials his horses, the speed ones, which ones are having, getting up to later distance and that, and then watching them go to the races, you learn from it.
No, you can
But then
leave me
today, he had 3 runners at Echuca today that we hadn't seen them, and you couldn't bet.
You can leave me out of those Avoca trials, DK. I'm still back in Yulong Zhongjiang.
Oh, Yulong. You see all speed horses, see? Mr. Yulong likes his
No.
horses up the front
I thought it was an absolute champion.
at Swan Hill.
Yeah, it's got the heart of a split pea.
So I'm saying that the trainers that still like to hide them and everything else, there's a real advantage in competition for those young horses. So you should be going the other way, trying to get together with the other metropolitan trainers find out where your horse really fits in. And for those that really want to play games, you can still do it. You can still put a big saddle or
10-pound saddle,
or whatever you want,
bandage 4
whatever you
legs,
like.
4 kilo apprentice or 70
Doesn't
kilo
matter.
jump stock.
put a 70 kilo jump jockey on it, put heavy shoes on it, and there's nothing preventing you from doing that. And it won't. And
Keep
even
banging on about it now. We haven't got the
and then
number
even if you
thing
do trial them, it's still not going to affect your price that much.
That's the next frontier, isn't it?
It is. That's the next one.
Anyway.
Richie,
Been
been
a
an
pleasure,
absolute
wasn't it?
pleasure,
Thank you
mate.
very
Thanks
much.
so much for
Thanks for
coming
coming
down.
on, mate.
Really
Really
appreciate
on.
it.
Good to see you again.
Thank you very
Long
much.
time no see.
The People's Champion, Richie Irvine, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week as we start to get right into the spring next weekend. So hopefully we'll see everyone on Sunday, but if not, we'll speak to you next week.
What's the market on the man of the match for the recreational?
Yeah, well, I'm about 4s on.